Good day everyone, especially to you Sir Marco Kimbagas. I am Jelemy Capitok, the leader of Group 4 reporter, together with our group members. So today, we are going to present our presentation that is all about social, political, economic, and cultural issues in the Philippine history. But before that, here are the learning objectives that we must apply after the presentation. This lesson, we're going to analyze social, political, economic, and cultural issues in the Philippines using the lens history. To recognize that the problems of today are consequences of decisions and events that happened in the past. To understand several enduring issues in the Philippine society through history. To propose recommendation of solution to present-day problems based on the understanding of the past and anticipation of the future through the study of history. So, this chapter is dedicated to enduring issues in Philippine society, which history could lend a hand in understanding and hopefully proposing solution. These topics include the mandate discussion on the Philippines Constitution, policies on agrarian reform, and taxation. It is hoped that this discussion will help us propose recommendation or solution to present-day problems based on our understanding of root causes and how we anticipate future scenarios in the Philippines setting. Four topics for today about Lesson 1, Evolution of the Philippine Constitution. What is evolution? It is a process by which new species or populations of living things develop from pre-existing forms through successive generations, meaning it is the process of gradual changes that take place over many generations. So, what is revolution? It is a change in the way a country is governed, usually to a different political system and often using violence or war. What is constitution? Constitution is defined as a set of fundamental principles or established models according to which state or other organization is governed. Thus, the world itself means to be a part of a whole, the coming together of distinct entities into one group with the same principles and ideas. These principles define the nature and extent of government. So, meaning the Constitution provide the basis and needs or address it determine how laws are made and its details that process by which the government rules. Constitution, a set of rules that guides how country, state, or other political organization works. So, it's like a rule book. Branches of the government, powers of the government, responsibilities, rights of the people. So, the Constitution is considered the supreme law of the land Constitution. The latest Constitution was ratified on February 2, 1987. February 2nd of every year, Constitution Day. Why is Constitution is importance? Constitution is importance because it helps maintain law and order. It also imposes rules and regulation. Constitution also protects individual rights and freedom. Limits the power of the government. The Supreme Law of the Republic of the Philippines has been in effect since 1987. There were only 3 other constitutions that have effectively governed the country. So, 1935 Commonwealth Constitution, 1973 Marcos Administration, and 1987 Present Constitution. So, ito yung tatlo na talagang effectively na-implement. Out of the 7, only 3 have been effectively implemented. So, however, there were earlier constitution attempt by Filipinos in a struggle to break free from the colonial yoke.
Just like what Julie stated, there were early constitutions that governed the Philippines. The first one is the 1987 Constitution of Biak na Bato. The Constitution of Biak na Bato was the provisionary constitution of the Philippines Republic during the Philippine Revolutionary and was promulgated by the Philippines Revolutionary Government on November 1, 1897. The Constitution, borrowed from the Cuba, was written by Isabelo Archa and Felix Ferrer in Spanish and later on translated into Tagalog. The Constitution of Biak na Bato was a provisionary because there is no constitution before that, and this constitution we borrowed this from the country of Cuba, written by Isabelo Archa and Felix Ferrer in Spanish and later on translated into Tagalog. 1899 Malolos Constitution. After the signing of truce, the Filipino revolutionary leaders accepted the payment from Spain and went to exile in Hong Kong. Upon the defeat of Spanish to the American and Battle of Manila Bay on May 1, 1898, the United States Navy transported Aguinaldo back to the Philippines. The newly reformed Philippine Revolution forces reverted to the control of Aguinaldo, and the Philippines Declaration of Independence was issued on June 12, 1898, together with Republic. The Malolos Constitution was elected, which a commission of draw up the draft constitution on September 17, 1898, which was composed of wealthy and educated men. The next constitution was the 1899 Malolos Constitution. After the signing of this constitution, the Filipino revolutionary leaders accepted payment from Spain under Mayo Aguinaldo. Then they going to exile in Hong Kong. Nakulong sila sa Hong Kong because they accepted payment from Spain. But then, when the Spanish defeated in the Battle of American and Manila Bay, the United States Navy transported Aguinaldo back to the Philippines, and the Philippines Armed Forces reverted the control of Aguinaldo. This constitution was elected by wealth and educated men. The 1899 Malolos Constitution was never enforced due to ongoing war. The Philippines was effectively a territory of the United States, the signing of the Treaty of Paris between Spain and United States, transferring the sovereignty of the Philippines on December 10, 1898. Have you still remember the signing of the Treaty of Paris? After that, we become the Commonwealth, or we become the territory of United States, but the goal is to back the sovereignty of the Philippines, and that's what happened on December 10, 1898.
On 8 February 1935 and ratified by the U.S. President Franklin B. Roosevelt. It on 25 March 1935. Election were held in September 1935 and Manuel L. Quezon was Commonwealth. In March 1986, President Aquino proclaimed a transitional constitution to last of a year. Whole Constitution Commission draft a permanent constitution, the last transitional constitution, called the Freedom Constitution, maintain money provision of the old one, including in writing from the presidential right enrolled by these three. In 1986, on Constitutional Convention was created, composed of 48 members, apportioned by President Aquino from varied backgrounds and presentation. The convention drew up the permanent constitution, legally restoring the setup published by Marcos in 1972, but with new was to keep the president in check, a reaction to the experiences of Marcos' rule. The new constitution was officially adopted on 2 February 1987. Feudalism. in the Philippines was supported by the President Duterte in the 2016 presidential election, saying that I will evenly distribute with the in the Philippines instead of constraining concentrating in it in Manila, the conceptual capital of the country. As a from as, as a form of government, central governing authority of constitution political units constitutionally share sovereignty applied applied to the Philippines. The country will be broken into autonomous region. Each region will be further divided into local government units. The region will have the primary responsibility on industry development, public safety, and in interaction, education, healthcare, transport, trans, transportation, and many more. Each region will also take charge of their own finance, plans of development, and law exclusive to there are national government on the other hand will only handle matter of national interest such as fig- figure policy and defense among other. In this my explanation about evolution of the Philippines. The Philippines Constitution has evolved over time with previous constitution including the 1935 Commonwealth Constitution, the 1937 Constitution, and the 1986 Freedom Constitution, and earlier attempt such as the 1897 Constitution of Biak na Bato with the Broad Constitution from Cuba establishing the organs of the government. The Philippines Revolution led to the formation of the independent Philippines Republic with its own government, followed by the ratified of Constitution in 1998.
In the policies on agrarian reform is essentially the rectification of the whole system of agriculture, an important aspect of the Philippine economy because nearly half of the population is employed in the agriculture sector, and most citizens have in rural areas. Agrarian reform is centered on the relationship between productions and the distributions of land among farmers. It also focuses on the political and economic class character of the relations of productions and distributions in farming and related enterprise, and how this connect the wider class structure. Though genuine and comprehensive agrarian reform, the Philippines will be able to gain more from its agricultural potential and uplift the Filipinos in the agricultural sector, who have been for the longest time suffering in the poverty and discontent. Ang reformang agraryo daw ay mahalagang pagwawasto ng buong sistema ng agrikultura. Isang mahalagang aspeto ng ekonomiya ng Pilipinas dahil halos kalahati ng populasyon ay nagtatrabaho sa sektor ng agrikultura at karamihan sa mga mamamayan ay naninirahan sa mga kanayunan. Ang reformang agraryo ay nakasentro sa ugnayan ng produksyon at pamamahagi ng lupa sa mga magsasaka. Nakatuon din ito sa uri ng pampolitika at pang-ekonomiyang katangian ng mga relasyon ng produksyon at distribusyon sa pagsasaka at mga kaugnay na negosyo, at kung paano ito kumonekta sa mas malawak na istruktura ng uri sa pamamagitan ng tunay at komprehensibong reformang agraryo. Ang Pilipinas ay mahigit na makakamit mula sa ang potensyal nito sa agrikultura at iangat ang Pilipino sa sektor ng agrikultura na sa pinakamatagal na panahon nagdurusa sa kahirapan at kawalang kasiyahan. Land ownership in the Philippines under Spain. When the Spaniards colonized the country, they brought with them a system of pueblo agrarian agriculture, where rural areas communities, often dispersed and scattered in nature, were organized into a pueblo and given land to cultivate. Nang sakupin daw ng mga Kastila ang bansa, dinala nila ang isang sistema ng agrikulturang agraryo ng pueblo, kung saan ang mga pamayanan sa kanayunan ay madalas na nagkakalat at nakakalat sa kalikasan, ay inorganize sa isang pueblo at binibigyan ng lupang taniman. Land ownership in the Philippines under the Americans. The Americans were aware that the main cause of social unrest in the Philippines was landlessness, and they attempted to put an end to the deplorable conditions of the tenant farmers by passing several land. Alam daw ng mga Amerikano na ang pangunahing sanhi ng kaguluhan sa lipunan sa Pilipinas ay kawalan ng lupa at sinubukan nilang wakasan ang kalunos-lunos na kalagayan ng mga nangungupahan na magsasaka sa pamamagitan ng pagdaan sa ilang lupain.
The Sakdal or Sakdalistas Uprising was a peasant rebellion in Central Luzon that lasted for 2 days, May 2 and 3, 1935. It was easily crushed by government forces then, but this historical event tells us the social inequality brought about by issues in land ownership and tenancy in the country. The Sakdal Uprising, also known as the Sakdalista Uprising, was a significant peasant rebellion that took place in Central Luzon, Philippines, spanning 2 days from May 2 to May 3, 1935. While the rebellion was swiftly suppressed by government forces at the time, which sheds light on the prevalent social inequalities stemming from land ownership and tenancy issues in the country during that period. The uprising was fueled by deep-rooted discontent among the rural population, who faced severe poverty, unequal distribution of land, and exploitative tenancy arrangements. The rebels sought to challenge the ruling elite and their control over land and resources. The Filipino World Sakdal means to a cause which in the title of the newspaper held by Benigno Ramos, he rallied support from Manila and nearby provinces through the publication which led to the establishment of the Partido Sakdalista in 1933. They demanded reform from the government such as the abolition of thesis of equal or common ownership of land, among others. They also opposed the dominant Nationalista Party's acceptance of gradual independence from the United States and instead demanded immediate severance of ties with America. The Filipino World Sakdal means to a cause. This term was used as the title of the newspaper led by Benigno Ramos, which played a significant role in rallying support from Manila and nearby provinces in the 1930s. As a result of the publication's efforts, the Partido Sakdalista was established in 1933. The party aims to bring about reforms from the government, including the abolition of taxes and the achievement of equal or common ownership of land, among other demands. The Lista also opposed the Nationalista Party, which was the dominant political party at the time, due to their acceptance of the gradual independence from the United States instead of the Sakdalistas, advocated for the intermediate severance of ties with America. For a new party with a small clout, they did well in the 1934 general elections, scoring 3 seats in the House of Representatives and several local posts. This encouraged them to attempt an uprising in 1935. Upon being crushed, Ramos fled to Tokyo and the Partido Sakdalista collapsed. The new party mentioned seems to have gained some success in the 1934 general elections, securing 3 seats in the House of Representatives and winning several local posts. This initial success likely encouraged them to become more ambitious. In 1935, they attempted an uprising, but unfortunately, their revolt was suppressed. As a result, the leader of the party, Ramos, fled to Tokyo and the Partido Sakdalista ultimately collapsed.
NARA accelerate the government's resettlement program and distribution of agricultural land to landless, tenants of farmers. It also aimed to convince members of the Hawks, a movement of rebels in Central Luzon, to settle on areas where they could restart their lives of peaceful citizens. NARA means National Agrarian Reform and Resettlement Administration was a government program implemented in the Philippines. Its primary objective was to accelerate the government's resettlement program and distribute agricultural land to landless, tenants and farmers. Additionally, NARA aimed to convince members of the Hawks, a movement of rebels in Central Luzon, to settle in areas where they could restart their lives as peaceful citizens. The Hawks, also known as the Hawk-Balaha, were a communist guerrilla movement that emerged during World War II. They initially fought against the Japanese occupation but later turned their attention to challenging the post-war Philippines government. The Hawks advocate for land redistribution and the rights of peasants, as they believe that the ruling elite controlled most of the country with the resources. In all, NARA aimed to bring about social and economic stability in Central Luzon by addressing the land issues faced by landless, tenants and farmers. By convincing members of the Hawks to participate in the program, the government hoped to not only provide them with the means to rebuild their lives but also contribute to the broader goal of national reconciliation and peace.
During President Marcos' regime, he implemented various measures to address the deep and structural problem in the countryside. Particularly in the area of agrarian reform, one of the key initiatives introduced was Presidential Decree Number 27, also known as the Code of Agrarian Reform of the Philippines. Presidential Decree Number 27 was a landmark policy that aimed to address the issue of landlessness and promote equitable distribution of agricultural land to farmers. It was enacted in 1972, shortly after the declaration of martial law, and became the core of agrarian reform during Marcos' regime. Implementation of a land reform program specifically targeting rice and corn land, it mandate the redistribution of agricultural land holding larger than 7 hectares to qualify tenant farmers. This meant that landlords who owned vast tracts of land were required to distribute a portion of their land to the farmers who were tilling it. Under Presidential Decree Number 27, the government facilitated the transfer of land ownership to the issuance of emancipation patent and certificates of land transfer to qualified beneficiaries. These beneficiaries were mainly tenant farmers who had been working on the land for a significant period. The aim was to empower farmers by giving them ownership and control over the land they cultivated. The agrarian reform policies sought to address the historical inequalities in land economic opportunity.
The new deadline of CARPER expired in 2008, leaving 1.2 million farmers beneficiaries and 1.6 million hectares of agricultural land to be distributed to farmers in 2009. President Arroyo signed Republic Act No. 9700 or the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program Extension which reform or CARPER. The mandatory law that extended the deadline to 5 more years. Section 30 of the law also mandates that any case and or proceeding involving an implementation of the provisions of CARP as amended, which may remain pending 30 June 2004 shall be allowed to proceed to its finality and executed event beyond such date. In 2008, the original deadline for the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program or CARP was set to expire. By this time, there were still 1.2 million farmers who were eligible to receive land under the program and 1.6 million hectares of agricultural land that had not yet been distributed. In response to this, President Arroyo signed Republic Act No. 9700, also known as the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program Extension with Reforms or CARPER. This law extended the deadline for CARP by 5 years until 2014. The passage of CARPER was a significant step forward in ensuring that the goal of CARP will be achieved. The extension of the deadline for the program provided more distribute land to eligible beneficiaries. The additional provision of CARPers also helped to strengthen the program and make it more effective.